Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to CO Sports Talk. We got a great episode for you guys. We'll have some guest callers. We'll talk about this NFL Week 2, this college Week 3, and give you guys a nice recap of the NFL and college games that happened this weekend. So without further ado, let's get right into this episode and break down some football.
Let's get it.
All right, our first game this week was Chargers and Chiefs. The Chiefs won this game by a final score of 27-24. And Hans, first of all, how'd you feel about this game? Because I heard Oliver actually talk about this on his podcast. This Chiefs team is pretty legit.
Yeah, I didn't actually get to see the end of the game, but from what I was watching, it looked like a very, very good game. I actually kind of disagree. I think the Chiefs are very
Really?
overrated for a 2-0 team. Do not think that they should be that at all. Um, but they both look like very high offensive powered teams, so it'll be fun to watch throughout the season.
You know what's funny? Oliver had a guest on his podcast, shout out his Pally Podcast Sports, and I'm pretty sure he was a Broncos fan too and said the exact same thing.
Yeah, actually, that
Yeah,
is not true. Yeah, so check out my podcast, Mics on Mics, if you go to Palo Alto High School or you just like sports. But yeah, my guest JJ is also a Broncos fan, and he was pretty sure the Broncos were the best team in the division. Don't know how that's looking 2 games into the season, but yeah, I think the Chiefs are legit personally. They routed the Arizona Cardinals and they showed some nice resiliency in that win over the Chargers. Uh, but yeah, Justin Herbert did everything he could, still wasn't enough. So yeah, the Chiefs team's good.
Yeah, I think Mahomes actually he wasn't amazing, even though they won this game. Allaire was pretty solid, but Mahomes had some picks that were dropped. And also Herbert did play well. Obviously, he had that pick, but I mean he's a yard, just produces yards after yards. Mike Williams playing really well. But ultimately the Chiefs found a way to win. That ends up being showing a really good team. So yeah. At 2, we'll start with the 10 a.m. games on Sunday morning. We have the Dolphins and the Ravens. Game of the week, possibly. I mean, I hate to say it, boys, but I think we owe an apology to Tua because that guy may be legit. He balled out, and this Ravens DB core kind of got toasted.
Yeah. Do we owe an apology to Tua or are we praising Mike McDaniel? Because I think Tua Tagovailoa gets a lot of undeserved hate. Um, I saw a clip of him on Twitter where they reversed the footage and made him a righty, and it kind of just like changed everyone's perspective on him. So
Yeah,
I think
lefty just look
I think
weird.
there's like some stigma against lefty quarterbacks and their mechanics and stuff. But no, I think this addition to Tyreek Hill is really paying dividends for this squad. Jalen Waddle's playing like an elite receiver. Um, and yeah, I just love the way they're drawing up like Mike McDaniel's drawing up the plays. Magic Mike, man. Um, yeah, they look really good against my Patriots, and then they're down 3 scores to the Ravens in the fourth quarter and come back and win it. I mean, Tua throws 6 tutties,
Yeah, and Lamar played well. This Ravens team did play well on offense.
really well. Lamar is really playing well to start this year, but this
Yeah.
defense is giving no help.
My thoughts on this game were one, Mike McDaniel totally ditched the Niners offense, which is interesting. Maybe the Niners could copy his approach, but the run first is not there anymore. They're totally spreading the ball out and throwing deep. And McDaniel was the on the offensive side of the ball in San Francisco when he's there. And two, this Dolphins team, they were known for that team that didn't have a good receiving core for so many years. I mean, the receiving wide receiver one was like Devontae Parker for years. And now here they are with two really good receivers in Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill and a solid tight end. I mean, this Dolphins team, I think, is legit.
yeah, I definitely personally do owe an apology to Tua. Thought he was very, very overrated, but after seeing this performance, he's got all the tools around him to succeed. I actually picked him up in fantasy because Trey Lance not going to do it this year.
Exactly the same, mate.
Yeah, but I think he's got all the tools around him, so it's all dependent on himself how good he does.
Yeah. And going into another upset, we have the Jets coming back and beating the Browns. And Joe Flacco, I mean, this guy doesn't really show much emotion. He's kind of a robot, but he just kind of finds a way to win. And great job. And man, I mean, Brees Hall at running back, Garrett Wilson, though, looking really good. But this Browns team, they had this game in the bag. They really should have won it.
Definitely a crazy ending to the game. I think they were down like with 2 minutes left, 14 points, something crazy like that. And Joe Flacco, I mean, as a Broncos fan, didn't never really liked him, but he found a way to win this game and he showed out with I think 4 touchdowns in total. So yeah.
Yeah, kind of just insane collapse by the Browns, to be frank with you. I mean, you're up, yeah, 13 points with 2 minutes left. They allowed a deep shot to Corey Davis, no one even within 30 yards of him. And then you give up the onside kick. I mean, just like everything that could go wrong for the Browns went wrong. But credit to the Jets, man. Joe Flacco was like, just they are not running the ball at all. Like Joe Flacco, they're just letting Joe Flacco rip it.
I love it.
He's on like a historic pace for like like passing attempts. And yeah, I mean, I like he's actually playing pretty well, to be honest. I think he had 4 touchdowns, no interceptions in that game or something like that. Or yeah, I don't know. But yeah, the Jets actually didn't look very good against the Ravens, but they looked good and they showed good resiliency there. So yeah, shout out the Jets.
Yeah.
AFC East looking a little different. We got 2-2-0 teams, 1-2-1-1 teams.
I know, I love it. Joe Flacco let him go loose, and I mean this Browns team, they're not awful actually, talent wise. I mean Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt obviously there, and then Amari Cooper is playing really well to start this year off. Jacoby Brissett's actually not bad in my opinion. He's a QB that can kind of just get it done. He's a guy that will tell is a very smart guy, knows exactly what to do. Probably will struggle a little bit at the end of the game, but he's an admiral starter for a few games, so they really should have won this game. But shout out the Jets, really solid win for them, and yeah, maybe they can keep building. My take on the Jets making the playoffs maybe wasn't awful, Oliver.
Yeah, maybe not. Still don't quite see it happening because I do think they are the worst team in the division.
Ah,
However, you know, you said it about the Bengals last year, and I called you crazy, so can't really rule you out now.
another take that I really see happening is the Jags beating the Colts 24-0, and I definitely like them to win this AFC South right now as Trevor Lawrence is playing really well, and man, this Colts team, they cannot win in Jacksonville. They have not won in Jacksonville since 2014.
Yeah, Colts had a cupcake that was scheduled to begin their 0-2 or 0-1-1. You tie the Texans, arguably the worst team in the league, and then you get blown out by the Jags. And yeah, like you said, Jags are the kryptonite of this Colts team, especially when you're playing in Duval County. And yeah, I mean, just Colts definitely the most disappointing team in the season so far. For me, Matt Ryan not looking great. Michael Pittman didn't play that game. Jonathan Taylor got shut down. But yeah, all credit to the Jags, man. This defense looks fierce. T Law is finally coming to his own. He looks pretty legit so far. Christian Kirk looking to not be overpaid because he's balling.
Yeah.
And yeah, good running back tandem with Etienne and Robinson. I like the way this Jacksonville team is looking. I think this division's all theirs at this point.
And
Like
they could easily be 2 and
think
0.
I actually think they can win this division. They could be 2 and
Yeah,
0 easily. And with Colts looking so bad, Texans looking so bad, and Titans looking so bad, I think this is the Jags take for the taking.
yeah, I definitely agree. I think this is might be the new NFC East of the NFL. Just a bunch of
Yeah.
pretty terrible teams. And I think this game was kind of a mix of both Jacksonville defense, also underperforming on the Colts offense because Taylor had what, like 50 yards, something like that. Matt Ryan with 3 interceptions. I think it was just terrible offense and pretty solid defense.
Yeah. Moving on to another 10 a.m. game, we have the Buccaneers and the Saints. This Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, really looks solid defensively, and the Saints. This is a pretty bad game, to be honest. It was like 3-3 going into the fourth quarter. The most exciting thing that happened in this game was the Mike Evans, Marshall Lattimore fight again. They really do not like each other, even the AFC South. Yeah, Jameis didn't look that good. Kind of looked like 2019 Jameis, and the Buccaneers kind of just found a way to win.
Yeah, exactly. Jameis looked like he was still playing for the Bucks there. Turned the ball turned the ball over way too many times. Yeah, this game kind of started off slow. I was like, oh, another low scoring Bucks Saints game that the Saints are gonna somehow win like 9-3. And then Bucks defense balled out and they started pulling away. Tom Brady still doesn't look fantastic through 2 games, but I'm sure he'll be fine. And yeah, I think kind of one of the more forgettable games this week, but credit to the Bucks defense.
Yeah, this beef between
Oh yeah.
Lattimore and Evans, I kind of love it. Really adds like spark to the game, some energy. Just kind of really embodies this rivalry. And Mike Evans, as one of my favorite wide receivers, sucks that he got suspended one game, but I really like the game inside the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be like one of the only true like player beefs in the NFL that like continues to go on. Like it just happens every single time. There's something between them. So it's just it's interesting to see like what's gonna happen next time.
Yeah. Next up, we have a really surprising match for many people that found a score. This was that one game that was really never shown on Red Zone. Ended up being a good game, though. The Giants beating the Carolina Panthers 19-16, and the New York Giants are 2-0, their best start in a long time under the new coach Brian Dable. And it was the first time in like 10 years or something that the Jets, the Yankees, and the Giants all won on the same day.
Yeah, I saw that. So good day for New York. But I'm not gonna lie, I didn't watch this game. But yeah, you're right. They didn't really show it on Red Zone, and I only watched Red Zone when the Patriots were in commercials or when the game was over. So yeah, I didn't really watch it, but I just want to give a shout out to Brian Dable. But the one thing I'm not going to give New York Giants all the flowers yet because this team kind of reminds me of the Panthers last year. Panthers last year started 3-0, and we're like
Really?
maybe they're legit or either 2-0 or 3-0. They kind of they beat the Texans and the Jaguars. I don't know, something like that. They beat two bad teams. And people were giving them like, oh, they're gonna win this division. And the Titans do not look good, and the Giants beat them, and then they just beat the Panthers, who also do not look good. So they beat 2-0-2 teams. So again, I think they got the right hire in Brian Dable. That's their guy. Saquon Barkley looks to be back, but I'm not ready to hop on this New York Giants train quite yet.
Yeah, I didn't quite get the chance to watch much of this game, but I followed it on ESPN. It looked like a very, very slow start to the game, 6-6 going into half, I think. All of a sudden, the third quarter hits. Both teams scored a touchdown. A lot of field goals in the fourth quarter. Looked like it would probably be a pretty exciting game to watch. Just didn't get the chance to.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the Giants, Daniel Jones looks like he's running the system pretty well. And the big aspect of them is Saquon's back. He's two solid games for him. For the Panthers, I mean, they could easily be 2-0. They've had two tough losses. And what's tough for them is they have four really hard games coming up versus, I think, the Buccaneers and the three hard teams in the NFC West. So that's going to be tough for the Panthers. I mean, they could be 0-6 in 4 weeks from now. But for Baker, I mean, he's playing all right. And McCaffrey actually is getting some good yardage, but just two tough losses for them. I think Matt Rule's time may be coming to an end. He may be our first coach we see in 2022 get fired.
Yeah, I think it's got to be a Matt Rule thing because this roster on paper is not that bad. I mean, they
Yeah.
have some studs, but it's just not coming together. And I think they might end up being one of the worst teams in the league this year. And that's not really the player's fault. I think it's kind of a Matt Rule thing.
Yeah, maybe he'd be a good fit at like Nebraska or something, as they just fired Scott Frost,
So,
and was a
Frost.
good college coach. But yeah, next up we have Patriots beating the Steelers 17-14. It's kind of a low scoring Belichick system QB defensive battle, but the Patriots ended up winning it, and Mac Jones played pretty well. But I think Nelson Aguilar was a big surprise for the Patriots.
He was. I saw flashes from Nelson last year. I couldn't really get all the hate he was getting. Didn't see many drops last year. Not didn't put up crazy numbers, but he was a pretty consistent guy for us. And this year it kind of seemed like it was a breakout game for him. I would like to see Devontae Parker more involved. Max 2 interceptions on the year are both deep shots to Devontae Parker. And he only has one catch through 2 games. And same thing with Kendrick Bourne. And Kendrick Bourne just wasn't seeing the field for whatever reason. I think must have been some personal grudge because Belichick likes to do those things again. Jonas, if you remember 2014, Jonas Gray rushed for 200 yards, 4 touchdowns, slept through his alarm and was never seen again. And then Malcolm Butler famously was benched in the Super Bowl because he had started a fight or was late to practice, something like that. So it must have been some of those things for Kendrick Bourne because he only played 2 snaps the first game and a little more, like played 20-something this game. So a little, still less than he should be getting, but not as bad as week 1. But defense looks really good. And yeah, Damon Harris looks good. I think we're going to see a lot of these low scoring games because the offense is not great, but the defense looks pretty good. Like only 24 points in 2 weeks for the Patriots, and they're 1-1. So I think defensive football is going to be the key to the season.
Yeah, the main thing that stood out to me in this game was the Patriots' run defense. Holding Najee to less than 50 yards, pretty impressive. And overall, I think they only allowed like 70 or 80 total rushing yards, and that's pretty good for this Steelers team.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the Steelers team, the question remains kind of the quarterback situation here. Are they going to make a switch anytime soon? I mean, I don't think Trubisky. I mean, we'll see with him. I think right now he's still probably their number one guy, but he didn't play as well as he did week one, definitely on Sunday. Deontay had a few yards, but yeah, the Steelers offense felt a little bit stagnant. And it was a low scoring game, but the Patriots ended up winning it. Solid win for them. As we move on to another 10 a.m. game, our last of the 10 a.m. games, before we move into the ones, the Lions and the Commanders. I mean, this Detroit Lions team is legit. And what helps this Lions team out is their one loss is the Ravens. And their one loss is the Eagles. And this Eagles team crushed the Vikings the other day and struggled with the Lions. So I think that shows that this Lions team is a tough team, a playoff team possibly. Jared Goff looked really good along with Amon-Ra St. Brown. And this was a very Carson Wentz-esque game, like a comeback, throwing for a ton of yards, picks. Yeah, but good win for the Lions.
Yeah, Lions almost had a backdoor like comeback last week, and then this week they're on the other side of that. But they did come away with the W. Amon-Ra St. Brown, like you said, just a beast. I think he's going to start moving on to some top 10 wide receiver boards in a few weeks because dude is just consistently putting up numbers. And I don't hear that much about it until kind of last week. I think people are like, okay, this guy's legit. And I think we know that the Detroit Lions are a good offensive team. Jared Goff's playing pretty well. Defense needs some work. But remember, they put up 35 points against a good Eagles team. Lost that game, but yeah, again, good offense. DeAndre Swift looks elite this year. They have an elite offensive line led by a guy like Frank Ragnow. And yeah, so defense needs some work, but I think this Lions team is a sneaky wildcard contender.
Yeah, I didn't really get to watch much of this game at all. But being a Cal fan, it's nice to see Jared Goff finally getting back to how he was as the early days of the Rams. Throwing for 250 yards, 4 touchdowns. It's great to see him kind of re-spark that skill that he has.
Yeah, I think Goff's a solid player. The question for the Lions is, are they going to stick with him, take like Bryce Young or something? But yeah, I think he's definitely not a guy that's like a backup next year. I think he finds a home somewhere because he's still a really solid player right now in the NFL who has experience now. So I like Jared Goff.
Yeah.
Now moving on to the 1 p.m. slate games. We got the Niners and the Seahawks. And man, I have a lot to say about this, but I think we have a guest on actually for this.
What's up, Jack? We're now joined by Jack Newman, huge Niners fan, friend of mine. Jack, thank you for joining us, first of all. And second of all, just your overall thoughts on this Week 2 Niners game. And is this the Niner team we will continue to see going forward?
Well, first, I appreciate the invite from you fellas. But yeah, so this week was kind of an up and down week, obviously, because Trey went down, which sucked. But I do believe that the Niners are better off, at least for this season, with Jimmy. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. I think this is a good opportunity for Jimmy to really prove himself and kind of make a statement.
Yeah. And then more about that Trey injury. I see a lot of Niners fans. We'll get Casey's thought on this a little later, blaming Shanahan for that play call. Do you blame Shanahan for that?
Yeah, obviously I'm not going to attack Shanahan on a personal level, but man, you can't be running your quarterback like that, like a running back. Trey Lance isn't 5'10", 220 pounds. Trey Lance is he's big, but he's also tall. He doesn't know how to run the ball like that. We shouldn't be running him inside the tackles.
Yeah. And last question, you touched on it a little bit earlier. Why do you think this team is better with Jimmy as the quarterback, at least for this season, just because he's less of a developmental guy and knows the system better? Is that why?
Well, yeah, that's a big part. I think he knows the system. And I also think the guys trust him.
Yeah.
As weird as it kind of was, I think when Jimmy went in the game this week, the guys kind of seemed a little upbeat and just very trusting in him.
Yeah, I agree. I saw that too. Yeah. So thank you for joining us and thanks for your insight.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, fellas.
Yeah, I actually really agree with most things he said. I mean, pretty much everything. I think that the Niners' chances of winning the Super Bowl went increasingly up when Jimmy became the starter. And that's a very weird situation that they've had. I mean, it's been a weird situation in general. It feels like we said bye to Jimmy 8 times and he keeps coming back. But I think everyone's glad he's back right now as we have an extremely experienced backup. And as he said, I mean, this team may even be better without him, with him now. For the Trey Lance situation, I think it's just a brutal situation for the guy. He hasn't started consistently on a team since 2019, and it's going to be 4 years until 2023 until he plays because he opted out of 2020, 2021. He sat behind Jimmy. 2022, he got hurt. It's brutal because we literally called it last week on the show. I was like, he's going to get hurt if he doesn't slide, and that obviously he couldn't have slid on that specific play, but they were treating him like a running back, kind of as Jack said. And it's just brutal. I feel bad for the guy. I really do. But I do think Jimmy is class act. He's ready for this situation. He prepared like a starter. He took 0 first team offense reps all week, and he still was able to play a really solid game for the Niners. And I think this team's Super Bowl aspirations have gone up actually. But yeah, I really do wish Trey the best. I feel bad.
Yeah, I do feel really bad. But yeah, like Jack said, he does not quite have the Josh Allen size. He's a pretty big dude, 6'4", 225. But yeah, I just don't think it's the best idea to just run your guy on a QB power between the tackles. Yeah, and he does need to learn to slide, but on that specific play, kind of got blown up right away.
Exactly.
Yeah, personally, I've never really liked running QBs more than like 5-10 yards past line of scrimmage. Just think it's a terrible idea because obviously quarterback's the most important position. They get hit or injured like Trey did. Obviously, or well, not obviously, but in this case, it actually turned out pretty well for the 49ers. But in most cases, when your starting QB goes down, that's detrimental to the team and it sets you back a lot.
Yeah, 100%. It's brutal. Tough injury. Hopefully he comes back strong. But yeah, for now, I think we have a really good backup or now starter that's going to lead the way. So shout out Jimmy G and great win overall in the game. For the Seahawks part, maybe we should write off Geno Smith again. No, just kidding.
He'll go right back.
But Geno Smith, just the definition of kind of just like an efficient guy that runs a system. 24 for 30, 197 yards. Like barely took any deep shots, just dump off galores. And yeah, they really couldn't get their run game going at all. But
Start Drew Lock, man. I'm serious.
yeah. I mean, yeah. The
Why
Niners
not? Who do you have to lose?
Yeah, I mean, Gino looks good week 1, but it didn't look atrocious week 2. But yeah, we'll see.
They're not making the playoffs though. Like they know they should realize they're not a very good football team.
Yeah.
Let the young guy play.
Moving on to the next game, we got the Rams and the Falcons. This was another like a little backdoor cover comeback by the Falcons, but the Rams ended up winning it. Stafford had a good game, and Cooper Kupp once again continues to deliver. On the Falcons side, my take on that was Drake London, maybe the offensive rookie of the year right now. He's playing really well, but they're not getting Kyle Pitts involved at all. 7 targets in the first 2 games for him, which is brutal. You got to involve Kyle Pitts if you want to win.
It's bad, yeah. I thought this game was pretty funny. It's because the Falcons were down 28-3 and then almost came back. The Rams would have never been able to live that down. But yeah, Drake London looks good so far. Him, Garrett Wilson both look good. Garrett Wilson was my pick for offensive rookie of the year, so that doesn't look too bad either. And what was I gonna say? Yeah, so Arthur Smith, their head coach, was like, when asked about the Kyle Pitts non-production, he was like, it's not fantasy football. We're trying to win games. Arthur, you're 0-2. You're not winning games, not getting Kyle Pitts involved. So maybe try getting him involved because he's your best offensive player at the moment, and then see if that helps win games. But that just didn't make any sense. As a head coach of a team that's 0-2 saying, we don't care about numbers, we're trying to win games, and you're not winning games, it doesn't make sense to me. It could be a Kyle Pitts thing too. Maybe he's not getting open. But a dude who was pretty productive last year, in his rookie year, always has been able to create space. I mean, maybe teams are game planning him for him better. I'm not just blaming Mariota. I'm not just blaming the Falcons, coaching staff. But yeah, get Kyle Pitts involved, dude.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Kyle Pitts is one of the best offensive weapons in the league, just like with his size, speed, physical ability to play tight end or out wide, uh, running after the catch, catching, just all that stuff. I think he definitely should be the focal point of their offense and run it basically through him, um, with Drake London being the second piece.
Yeah, I like it. Moving on. And by the way, Jalen Ramsey looks much better than he did on Thursday Night Football the week before.
Agreed.
Moving on to Hans's Broncos, beating the Houston Texans 16-9. Low scoring game. Are you worried about this offense, Hans? Your defense does look solid.
Yeah, I think the defense definitely the bright spot of the team so far. Had a rough first half, week one against Seattle, but really turned it on after then. And since then, it's been pretty solid. But yeah, for the offense, not looking too great so far. Russell Wilson, not as good as I would have expected, but his numbers are very similar to Peyton's first two games as a Bronco. So I'm not quite worried yet. Same with Nathaniel Hackett, not the best two first games as a head coach, but it's his first time ever. So I think by week 4 or 5, if they're still struggling this much, I'm gonna start to get worried. But until then, I think I'm just gonna wait it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Hans will be in attendance for the Niners and the Broncos on Sunday. Both teams 1-1. What's your prediction for this game? I mean, Jimmy G going to the Denver Rain. I'm excited to watch that.
Yeah, I think my prediction's gonna be 27-24 Denver. I think it's gonna be a close game, good game, pretty somewhat good scoring, just overall a great game.
Also, Davis Mills is the franchise QB or no, boys?
I'm a Davis Mills guy. I'm not gonna lie. I like long neck Davis. But yeah, will Russell Wilson continue his torment on the San Francisco 49ers or not? That's what we'll see. That's what we'll find out on Sunday.
Yeah. Moving on to Cardinals Raiders, another insane game. A comeback that was crazy. Kyler Murray, great comeback, and it went to overtime. And man, this Raiders team just had such an easy way to win. They're not 0-2, boys. I mean, should we be more worried for the Raiders or concerned for the Raiders, or this Cardinals team is legit after watching this game?
I don't think this Cardinals team is legit because they looked really bad for a game and a half this year and looked really good for half a game. So I don't know. Raiders, I'm wishing Josh McDaniels the best, but yeah, I mean blowing a 20-0 lead is just tough. Chargers game they're pretty competitive, but yeah, there's not really excuses for that Cardinals game.
All right, boys, we got the Bengals and the Cowboys. A big shocker, actually. Big stat of the day. Well, first of all, Cooper Rush. Is he that guy or no? I mean, shout out Cooper Rush. He is a very just admirable backup QB. He came from Central Michigan. He's been the backup for the Dallas Cowboys now for like 5-6 years, and he's done a really good job filling in for Dak when he gets hurt. But for this Cowboys team, they did a really good job just playing. Cooper ran the system well. And for this Bengals team, man, not looking good. The big problem is the O-line. Joe Burrow setting the record for sacks in the first two games. He's now on pace to get sacked 110 times, most similar to David Carr. So in like 2005 or something. So what's going on with this Bengals team, boys?
Yeah, I mean I'm coming to the same thing. The team didn't get worse. I think it got better actually. Added Lyle Collins to the offensive line. Added Ted Karras from the Patriots, good guard / center. I don't really know. Joe Burrow looks to be taking a step back, but this offensive line is supposed to be improved, but it's not. He's getting sacked, but that's not. I think Joe Burrow is kind of holding on to the ball. Like I watched a little bit of this game, and I don't know if the sacks or the offensive line. They give him a good amount of time. He just got a little happy feet or held on to the ball too long. And I don't think that's a receiver's fault. He's probably the best trio in the NFL, the best trio in the NFL. So no, I don't really know what's going on, but to lose to that Cowboys team that's gonna be pretty poor without Dak is not a good sign. But they should have been week 1 winners. They should have been. But they're not. They weren't. So they're 0-2. No 0-2 team has made the playoffs since the 2020 playoff expansion. So
Yeah, I mean, I think Cooper Rush, obviously the main story of this game, but Joe Burrow
Him.
not looking too great. With what was it, 4 turnovers in the first half in the first game. And then this game he looked all right, but just not the same as he did a year ago. So I just wonder what's going on with it.
Wow, you're calling him out. You think he's not that guy anymore?
I don't know. I definitely don't think he's the same guy he was last year. I don't know if I think he can get back to it. I just don't know why he hasn't.
Yeah, I can't really explain it, to be honest. I can't.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's a mystery.
Yeah. Moving on to Sunday Night Football, we had the Green Bay Packers look back to the norm, beating the Chicago Bears 27-10. Need me a better Sunday Night Football game than this personally. But man, this Bears offense, Justin Fields, 7 for 11, 70 yards. I mean, that would be a nice first quarter stat line as I saw, but like, no, I mean, that like throw the ball a bit more there, eh? But David Montgomery looked good at least. But yeah,
Ugh.
and for the Packers, just a great offense in general with the run, and they even got some of their receivers involved, even though it's not the best core.
Yeah, but I will write a letter to Roger Goodell saying, please, no more Bears, Packers, Sunday Night Football. We see it every year, and I'm just tired of it, man. It's always a beatdown. It's
Giants,
never
Cowboys as well.
Yeah, same with NFC East matchups. I don't want to see any more NFC East matchups. I don't want to see any more Bears, Packers because they're just not entertaining at all. But yeah, just typical Bears, Packers. Packers own them. Yeah, I mean, completely outmatched. Again, it's weird. Packers look like a good football team there.
Yeah.
It's just the week one Packers are just so bad. I don't know what happens in week one. The Packers just are continuously just bad under Matt LaFleur, and then just like turn it around week two. I guess it's like a slap in the face, wake up call, but it is weird.
Is Justin Fields that guy though, or no?
I don't think he's not that. I can't tell yet. I don't. He has no help. Like there's no help, and then there's what Justin Fields had. Like
His O line is
no
trash.
offensive line, no receivers.
It's a miracle they won week one, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't really know how that happens.
Yeah.
You can attest to it more than I can, Casey, but conditions, maybe they had an advantage there. I don't know. They're playing the same conditions the Niners were. Maybe they're more used to it. Not sure. Yeah, I think it was more just a collapse by the Niners, maybe inexperience from the quarterback position. And yes, Bears aren't going to be good. I think they'll win 2-3 games on the year. I'm going to say that right now. Maybe 4. Yeah, Packers are. I don't know. I just don't. That game is just boring.
Yeah, I think the Bears they're not what they used to be. Just overall not the powerhouse. Don't have that great defense anymore, trading away Mac a few years ago, all that. So I just don't think they are what they were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, last 2 games, boys. Monday Night Football. Bills crushed the Titans. I mean, if we had to do power rankings, I would say all 3 of us would have the Bills at 1 right now. I mean, no question. 2-0, and they're by far the best 2-0 team. Josh Allen looked flawless. James Cook, I like that shout you had during the prediction video. He's a really solid running back. And Stephon Diggs is a top 5 receiver in NFL, no question. So, and their defense looked good. For the Titans, I think Ryan Tannehill struggling a lot. They have a solid backup there. Malik Willis, maybe we'll see him. And Derrick Henry, not very good as well.
Yeah. Derrick Henry. I don't know, man. I don't know what's up with these running backs. They get to a certain age, they start regressing. I think it's because of an injury. But what is Derrick Henry? 26 now? 25?
Yeah, it's sad, really, how physical that position is. Because you're
he's
considered
20,
washed.
28. He's 28. I didn't even know that. He's pretty old. Yeah, I think it's that 28. He's already starting to regress a little bit. Yeah, running backs don't last long. It's rare that you see a running back just stay in his prime for so long. And Adrian Peterson kind of did that, but not really. Frank Gore played a long time. I mean, there's a few outliers, but especially coming off a big injury like Derrick Henry had, plus kind of already aging a bit. I don't think we'll see the same success, and I think it's kind of Jonathan Taylor's league now at the running back position, and maybe Christian McCaffrey stays healthy. But yeah, Titans look really bad through 2 games. I think if they go 0-4, 0-5, or they just continue to struggle, I think it's Malik Willis time. Move on from Tannehill. Doesn't look good. And the Bills, can't take anything away from this. This was right during my football practice. Couldn't watch the game. Really early start. 4:15 Monday Night Football was kind of weird. But yeah, Bills look really good. They're by far the best team in the league.
Yeah, I don't even think you wait if you're the Titans, so you go 0-4. I think you bench Tannehill right now and start Malik. Tannehill not worked out at all this year. I think you trade him if you can. If not, you just let him ride the bench for the rest of the year. Start Malik. We saw the traits he had, the ability to extend plays, all the amazing stuff he did at Liberty, and in the preseason also, he was able to carry it over. So I think you just give him a chance to take over.
Yeah, I like that. And if you guys want to feel old, I mean, Derrick Henry's already in his 7th season in the NFL. I mean, I feel like he was just at Alabama beating McCaffrey in that Heisman.
Wait, seventh?
Yeah.
I
It's
still
wild.
remember him getting drafted at the top of the second round. What?
Yeah, man. That was like 2016, 2017. That's wild. 2015. I don't
That's
know. It's
Dude, that
crazy.
is so weird. Because I saw his age. I was like, oh, this guy's probably just 25 years old. He's 28. It's just wild.
Because he was literally just at Alabama. Like,
It's weird that Odell Beckham, like I still remember Odell Beckham being this like young stud receiver.
yeah.
And now he's what? He's 29.
Yeah, 2016 draft that was. Jared Goff also in his 7th season. I mean, he was just at Cal, but yeah, it's wild. And
Wow.
into the last game, Eagles 24, Minnesota 7. I guess that Vikings week 1, Kirk Cousins is legit, was not real. Kirk Cousins back to his just back and forth primetime mid game. But yeah, and they also really struggled to get Jefferson and Thielen involved. Looked like Jalen Reagor was like their best offense. But yeah, this Birds team's legit. Are we gonna see a Birds Bills Super Bowl, boys?
No, we're not. But yeah, the Birds look legit. Bills will be in the Super Bowl, I promise you, unless something happens. So yeah, the Vikings, the Kirk Cousins, they need to someone on behalf of the Vikings need to make sure that as long as Kirk Cousins is a quarterback, they need to just only negotiate with the NFL so they only play at 10 a.m. You cannot have this man on prime time. It's the same every single time. I think it's 2-10 on Monday Night Football.
I think it's past his bedtime. He's a very just like simple man, like
He's a
average
Christian.
Joe human. I think he's like used to just putting the kids to bed, reading them like a good night book before they go to bed. Like it's a little late for Kirk Cousins, you know? I mean, he's just the average American male.
He should be reading a prayer to his children and going to
Yeah.
bed and you know doing all this weird Kirk Cousins stuff. And then yeah, but I don't know what it is about the bright lights, but Kirk Cousins does not like him.
Yeah, and it was a great take last week when the Vikings played the Packers that when Kirk Cousins played Aaron Rodgers, that was the biggest disparity in drugs consumed between two starting QBs ever played. That was PFD commentator. Shout out him.
Shout out PFC. That's facts. Kirk Cousins is absolutely none, and then Rodgers plays on perks.
Yeah. Hans, what's your
Yeah.
thoughts on this?
So the Eagles, I'm kind of undecided about them because I think they'll be one of the best regular season teams this season. Not all time, but they have such an easy schedule. Playing in the NFC East, obviously that helps. But come playoff time, when they have to play the real teams, the good teams, I don't even think they're gonna win a single game in the playoffs, even though they may be as high as like the 2 or 3 seed. But I just don't think they're gonna be able to perform in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree Jalen Hurts is the guy, right?
Yeah, he looks
Yes.
really good so far. And yeah, shout out Justin from NFL playoff predictions. I'm sure he's happy.
Facts. His Penn State and Nittany Lions doing well too.
Yeah, so we'll get into college football. But Hans, thank you for joining us for NFL. Great talking week 2 with you and have fun at that week 3 Niners Broncos game.
Yeah,
Facts.
thank you so much for having me.
College football, week 3. Solid matchups. The best matchup actually wasn't that good of a matchup. The best one was probably A&M Miami. A&M won this one. But a few surprises, Oliver. Washington, Michigan State, this UW team is legit now.
They are now 18th in the country, and Michigan State was 11, not ranked anymore. So Washington completely knocked them off the map. But Penix, their quarterback, lefty, can sling it. He's legit.
Indiana transfer, yeah, he's good.
Yeah, he's good. They look really good. But yeah, kind of this game was not 11-point game. I mean, Washington was blowing them out the whole game. You want to touch on this for a sec, or you have anything else to say?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a really good game as well. A really fun national TV game, and ultimately just good for the Pac-12. Michael Penix, really solid game, really solid QB room this UW team has. And then Peyton Thorne from Michigan State threw for a good amount of yards, but they could not get their run game going at all. And ultimately costed them a lot of their defense. So shout out this UW team, good for the Pac-12. They could compete in the North. It's gonna be between them and Oregon.
I think they could, yeah. And let's talk about Oregon. I mean, they blew out 12th ranked BYU, and now BYU is 19th. Oregon moves up from 25 to 15 after this, 41 to 20, the final from Eugene. I think, not even relating to Oregon BYU, I think what this game shows is how good Georgia is.
100%. That's totally what I thought of as well. I mean, it just shows how good Georgia is. They crushed Oregon. It shows how good this SEC is. I think UGA by far is the best team in the country right now. Their defense, their offense, everything about it. But yeah, for this Oregon team, they have been way better in the last two games. Bo Nix is playing well. Troy Franklin, 3 receptions, 84 yards. And I actually had a feeling this was going to happen. I knew this BYU team was looking good, but Vegas, man, they know what they're talking about. And when Oregon's favored, it's hard to win at Austin Stadium. And BYU came in there and they kind of got crushed from the get-go. This Ducks team, I mean, I could end up seeing them go 10-2, to be honest, or 11-1.
No, they're super legit. And yeah, like this team's really good. BYU is a really good football team, and they got crushed. BYU beat up on, or not beat up. They won in overtime against Baylor, who's also a really good football team. Who was 9th ranked at the time, and it's just like you can just link these guys back. But BYU is a really good football team, and they got crushed by a team. They got crushed, like absolutely demolished by Georgia, and Georgia's just, I think, is gonna run away with this thing.
I
Like I
think
don't,
out of any sports, out of anything in the world, home field advantage is the most present, plays the biggest part in college football out of anything. NFL, it's not that big of a deal. Those guys are all professionals.
I agree.
College football, it's such a big deal. So we saw BYU beat Baylor at home. Then they go to Oregon, Austin Stadium, and get crushed. We see Oregon go down to Atlanta, and they get crushed. I mean, it's such a big deal. And that's why Penn State beating Auburn in Alabama was such a big win for the Nittany Lions.
Yeah, but one more quick question for you.
Yeah.
You think if that game is in Provo, BYU wins it?
I do, yeah. I think especially at night. I mean, it's obviously close. I think BYU ends up winning. They have an unreal atmosphere in Provo.
Yeah.
Really hard to win there,
And they're all
especially at
sober.
night. Yeah, especially at night, and I think so. But I mean, well, it's tough to call for sure. Other teams, Ohio State crushed. Wake Forest has a big game versus Clemson next week. They're both undefeated, along with Tennessee, who plays 2-1 Florida. That is game day. Before we wrap, Oliver, do you like Tennessee or Florida in week 4 college game day?
I think Tennessee by landslide.
Really?
I think the Utah game was a bit of a fluke. Anthony Richardson still has no passing touchdowns on the season. I can't tell if he's good or not. He's good with his legs, not so good with the arm. I think that's where I kind of am with him. But yeah, I think Tennessee's a good football team. Really good, actually.
Yeah, and Clemson Wake.
And it's in Rocky Top, right? So
Yeah, it is.
That's another huge advantage, like you stated earlier. So I don't know, man. I think the Vols win this by good margin. I think they win by 20.
And I like Sam Hartman and Wake Forest to beat Clemson at home, by the way. That's my bold prediction this episode.
I like it. Let me look at this slate, see if there's any. I think Arkansas.
Arkansas A&M, yeah.
That's another good game. I actually could see A&M winning this because Arkansas almost just lost to Missouri State.
Yeah,
So
that was bad.
I'm gonna go A&M by 3 in that one.
Also, USC right now looks like the best team in the pack. I don't know if I'm gonna say they're on upset watch, but watch out for Oregon State plus 6.5. They're at home versus the Trojans. This Beavers team's undefeated right now, so that could be a really solid matchup. Pac-12 after dark.
I agree with that. Yep.
So yeah, that's a little college football NFL talk for y'all.
Guys, tuning in once again to CO Sports Talk. Pleasure to bring this one to you. Thank you to Hans and Jack for both contributing to this episode. And if you guys are in the Bay Area and you like football, go ahead and watch Sacred Heart Gatos on Friday, 4 p.m. That's going to be a good one. Sarah St. Francis is also that night. That's another good game. And the next day, Palo Alto goes to Menlo and takes on the Knights. And I think the Knights are an upset watch. I'll say that right now.
I'll take Knights are on upset watch. Maybe the Wildcats are on upset watch. We'll see.
Perhaps.
big week of high school football coming up. So yeah, we'll get you all into it. But yeah, football is back. I love to say it, and we will see you guys next week.
Peace.